So I heard on some YouTube channel in a video that 6% of all humans who are alive. No, that 6% of all humans who have lived are alive today. And I think I find fault with that, actually. They're not counting the humans who were alive before the Great Flood, actually. When the Great Flood was a thing. Because, what was I gonna say? I forgot. Right. There once was a world with no oceans. There was no rivers. As the Bible states, a mist came up from the ground to water the plants. And plants that we grow for food and that the animals ate. Plants are watered by this mist that came up from the ground every night. We still see that. Your truck or your car, the outside furniture, it's completely covered in dew, morning dew. That's the mist that comes up from the ground. Mountain dew is not an actual mist. It's a sort of pop, but whatever. And I doubt it's made with actual dew. And I doubt it's from the mountains. So, what is it about the oceans? Where did they come from? If there were no oceans, then where'd the water come from? And when you explain the flood to someone, they ask, well, where did all the water that covered the earth go to? If the earth was once covered in water, where did the water go? How come the earth isn't covered in water today? Simple answer, the earth was a lot less mountainy and valley-y. There weren't mountains and valleys like there are today. Or at least not at a great amount. The reason the mainland is not underwater is because it's higher up. The oceans are merely the ground that is lower down. The water fell by gravity to the lower parts of the ground. Parts of the ground were raised and lowered in a great earth tectonic shift. You remember Day After Tomorrow. No, not Day After Tomorrow. 2012, where Los Angeles, the ground plummets down into the sea. The ground drops down and gets swept that way with water. Well, it kind of happened that way, but in reverse. Land was pushed up, another land fell down. Well, descended. The earth was all smooth all around, with hills, maybe some mountains. But pretty much all the ground was even with each other. And the water, its origin, came from both below the ground and rained down from above. That is what the Bible says. And if you're going to believe that, you have to believe that there was a bubble of water around the entire planet. Water that the sun had to pass through. Well, the light of the sun would pass through the water to hit Earth. And that would explain why humans lived for almost 1,000 years. Because the sun spews out radiation. And if there was a huge barrier of water between Earth and the sun, that would no doubt block a lot of harmful signals from the sun that would damage our DNA. I suspect that if you were to take humans, if you were to take a small amount of humans and put them in like an underwater city. Oh wait, they're working on that, aren't they? Have an underwater city, an underwater ecosystem. Japan is actually working on this. An entire city underwater. Put them deep enough underwater, not where it gets black, but just where the light is dimmer. A lot of the sun's radiation would be blocked, and humans in those underwater cities would actually live longer. Methuselah lived to be 950? He was the oldest guy. They said when he dies, it will be the end of the world because of how old he was. And it was like a prophecy. And that's pretty much what happened. Methuselah died and the world was flooded. Abraham survived on the ark with the animals. All the animals, 2 of each kind that came onto the ark. And since the world was so smooth all around, water covered all the face of the earth. But then, where did the water go? Well, there was a huge tectonic shift. Parts of the land rose up and parts of the land went down. And that's how we came up. That's how we ended up with the continents today. The continents that we have are the lands that rose up, and the oceans are the lands that rose down. The water settled in the lower parts and left the upper parts for seeds to grow and for animals to thrive. And it's where we live on the mainland, the continents. That's the land that rose up. And if Atlantis really descended into the sea, then that was another tectonic shift itself. I don't know if Atlantis ever even existed, but if it really descended into the ocean, then it was a shift. So humans lived longer when the sun's light and radiation passed through a barrier of water. And our lifespan was cut down to like a tenth of what it was. These days, you'd be lucky if you lived to be 90. And the oldest are like 116. They could live to be 120 I mean, with modern technology, you could live to be 120. Maybe the oldest person on Earth will live to be 120. I mean, it was the most common cause of people over 100 dying. Heart attacks from overworking or exercise, I don't know. Eating the wrong thing, choking to death. I believe that with modern technology, you can live to be 120. But back then, if Methuselah had access to today's technology, in that time, living underneath the water bubble around a planet, I mean, think about that. Think about that. If the humans who were alive before the Ark, before the Great Flood, were to launch a rocket off the ground, a NASA rocket, going into space, it would have to pass. It would go above the atmosphere. It would leave the atmosphere, the air of Earth, and then pass through a layer of water, and then come out of that layer of water, and then be able to get to the moon. The first trip to the moon would have involved going through, leaving the air, and then going through a layer of water, and then being out in space. That's what it would have involved. Passing through. I don't know how thick the water layer would have to be, though. I mean, the oceans are pretty deep. So, what was I going? Oh yeah, if Methuselah had access to modern technology, he could have been 1,200, which is 10 times 120. But now we have our lifespan shortened to a tenth. What is it with God and the number 10? No, wait, it's the globalists who love number 10. They want to reduce Earth's population by 90% to a tenth of its size. After the French Revolution, the French adopted a 10-day work week. And their metric system is based on the number 10. And France introduced the 10-hour clock, of course. Did they have that during their 10-hour work week? I don't know. But the French 10-hour clock kind of died off. 10 hours. Imagine if we had a 10-hour clock. What would it be like with a 10-hour clock? How many hours do you sleep? You know that rapper guy. This ain't a song for you if you asleep at 7:30. Ooh. Imagine being asleep at 7:30 with a 10-hour clock. That's like 2/3, 3/4 of the day gone. If you're still asleep. You must live a night life, be a video game nerd, whatever. I'm kind of a nerd myself. I study computers. I'm a computer nerd. I'm into video games. I study politics. Political nerd. Those are the two things that I study. I used to be totally into video games. That's all that mattered. But right now, I'm going into programming. I'm learning C++. I know a bit of Java, but I want to go with C++. More widely used. C++, games, politics. They're more important things to focus on in life. Well, that was a real rough segue. I came up with that earlier, but I somehow segued from something else to that. I segued from something to more important things, and I was like, no, not celebrity news, no, not sports, video games, politics. I don't remember what I was focusing on. Whatever. Imperial system. Wait a minute, hold on. How long would you sleep under a 10-hour clock? I mean, you sleep like a third of the day, which is, what, 8 hours? It's actually better to get 7 hours or 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours to sleep. I found that seven hours is appropriate. I can do 7 hours. But let's just say 8, just for sake of size. It's 1/3. What's 1/3 of 10? Now, assuming that you go to sleep, and you go to sleep and wake up on equal amounts from number 12. Wait a minute. If you wake up at 6 o'clock according to a 24-hour clock, you wake up at 6. And 6 hours after 12, what do you go to sleep at 10? Yeah, a lot of people go to sleep around 9 or 10. Yeah. 10 to 12, so 1/4 before and 3/4 after 12 midnight. So it actually be 10 on the 10-hour clock. So what's 1/3 of 10? 3:33. So you take 1/4 of 3:33 before 10. Half of 3:33 is 1.5, 1.6. What time do you go to sleep under a 10-hour clock? And what time do you have to wake up for an early bird? Actually, you might end up waking up at 4:30 or 5. If you work a 10-hour day, which my mom does. 10-hour day, bookkeeper wakes up 5:30, 5? Well, 5. 10-hour clock. You know what? Sleep schedule for a 10-hour clock. Just Google it. Anyway, I was thinking about the metric system too, the imperial system. Where did the metric system start? I mean, a 10-hour work week? Whatever. Julian calendar, Georgian calendar, whatever. Metric system. You know, that's all based on the number 10. And most of the globe uses it. So why don't Americans love the imperial system? I mean, the imperial system is an American thing. It's an American creation. I was going to film this in my room and have the flag behind me. Whatever. I don't know a single American who knows all of the American system. Go watch the number file video on no, I don't know if it's number file, but I think it's titled "Defending the Imperial Measurements" or something. He like rants about it. But you know what? Who cares? I mean, if you're buying things in America, the labels will have imperial measurements and metric measurements side by side. Just choose the one you want. You don't need to learn one over the other. You don't need to learn the imperial system if you come to America. You do need to learn the metric system if you leave America. Americans, spoiled. We have it both ways. They're both there. You can use either one. Maybe we have it that way so it's easy for immigrants to America to buy the appropriate amount. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Or if you send something by shipment out of America. If you're sending something that's like food, make sure it's something that's not going to spoil in the postal mail package, whatever. I was going to talk about something else, but I don't remember what it was. And 14 minutes, I think I've hit my limit of what I can upload to YouTube. How do you upload longer videos to YouTube? I don't know. I'm going to look it up. Well, gonna end the video. Good night.